And hi there. And we're going to. I'll start again, shall I? So, we're going to do a property assessment of 19 Freeman Road in SK16. And let's get into it. So, sorry, I just kind of went out of sync there a little bit. Now, the issue with this property is that the Viewberg guy was not allowed to photograph or video the interior, but he called me and explained that it was pretty good. He didn't see any signs of damp or structural issues, cracking on walls, all this kind of stuff. So the way we should treat this is that estate agency pictures are always very flattering, and whatever we see, we assume the worst. So let's go. Now, the first thing to say about this property is that it looks like it's a cavity wall, and I can tell by the way the bricks are lined up laterally, and it seems to have quite good bricks as well. Let's have a look from the Google satellite map view of the street view, because this way you can see quite a lot of detail. And the roof looks good. I think this is number 19 here.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's second property.
So it's
No. But we have 13. With this,
we're number 13.
Sorry. No, we are number 19. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's the second property on.
There we go. This looks like it. 17. That has to be 19. Okay. Yeah. And there's some render missing from this, but this is from June 2016. So the dark lines that we see are going to be bits of mortar that have come out, and therefore it's going to need a little bit of love, let's say, a bit of mortaring and TLC. Now, this is helpful because we can see that the roof looks okay, good slates, nice and tight, not too kind of flapping around. And also you can see a bit of a ridge in the ridge tiles, but that's because you've got a separating wall here somewhere. The flashing, the pointing and all of that looks okay on this roof. The thing with roofs are they deteriorate slowly. So typical lifespan of a decent slate roof will be 100+ years. And I don't see slipped tiles or anything like that, or tingles as they're known. In fact, overall, this roof is quite good. Now, this, I can't quite work out. Well, I don't know, you tell me, Martin. This feels to be like a 1920s, 1930s property, judging by the type of brick and so on.
Yeah, between 1930 and 1950s.
Yeah, okay. So that means that it's going to have decent damp proofing, which is really important. The other thing of interest here is the brick lintels. They're okay. You don't have them here, but then there's less weight up here, so that's okay. There doesn't seem to be any signs of subsidence.
It's almost 80 meters square. It's nice.
Okay, it's a good size. And moving on, nice backyard. Fence panels look okay. Everything looks okay. Not too overlooked. That's a rather excessively high panel. I don't know if that's actually legal, but anyway, if the neighbors don't mind and these neighbors don't mind, then no one's going to pay attention to that.
One part of the property has EPCC, so and it's fresh EPCC. Previously, it was D.
Okay. All right. Well, that's encouraging. Now, the ceiling looks good, i.e. I don't see any undulations, and when the light is like this and it's kind of running across, you can see a lot of the detail here. And these are medium resolution pictures, so we can get a sense of what's going on. There's a few things. It's had a massive refurbishment in its time. Now, these dado rails, typically I would say they're original, but they're not, because they're not molded. They're actually just bits of like 2 centimeter wood and whatever. They're not particularly good. So that tells me they were just retrofitted because they couldn't get nice molded timber. And you can see down here, the skirting boards aren't molded. They're just like the plain ones. and it doesn't even have coving. So that tells me this property has had a really big renovation. What's that, Martin?
Yeah, but I think it's by new EPC. They said that it's 65 meters square, not 79, as I said. But
Okay. Well, then
and
you
also
have to
the
go
floor,
with EPC on these things.
yeah, because the floor plan said that it's 66 meters square. Yeah, and I think that's right because when I see it much like the kitchen is not doesn't have extension, so it should be that. But it has toilet downstairs, which is always correct. Nice.
Well, yeah, it's the only problematic thing is it's by the kitchen, but at least they're making use of the space. It's not ideal, but you do have a bathroom upstairs, so everything kind of works from that point of view. Also, the property is sits over an alleyway, which is the separation between two houses. So you can see it extends over here. And if we look at the pictures, we can see there's our alleyway, there's our bedroom, and it's the depth of the house. So that floor plan doesn't really make sense to me because then, you know, let's have a quick look at the satellite view.
The other part use the outer house.
Oh, is that how they've done it?
Yeah, I guess.
That makes sense. Yes, yes, okay. Yeah, that does make sense. That's exactly it. You're right. So you get this kind of kink thing going on, sort of.
But it's nice.
Yeah, it works. Big garden, and so far so good. All right, moving on. And the kitchen is basically new. It's in pretty good order. Couple of doors aren't hanging properly. See, this one's slightly off, but these are just like minor tweaks. I would say that that's a less than 10-year-old kitchen. I would say gas cooker on the gas hob, which is good.
And the last this property last sold was 2015. So I guess then it was fake social house, this fake social house, probably, and it's freehold now. And it's it was sold for 75K because it's social house. That's normal to be cheaper. And now under fully renovate, now they're reselling it.
Yeah,
which
that
is
all makes sense.
Common. Yeah, this is 90% the social house because the other house there is a lot of social house around. So, but some are sold, some not. So I think
So I assume this cupboard is for the boiler.
Yeah, I guess.
And that's the downstairs bathroom. They've done it nicely. This is an interesting feature. I've never seen this before. How clever. So this is a tap basin which sits on top of the lavatory. What a nice little kind of space-saving idea. Not very easy to get at, but very good for space saving.
The property is made nice.
Yeah, they've done a good job on this. So on the basis that there will be issues, there will be lurking problems, and you can't quite trust the estate agency pictures, but you can say that we can say that the Vuber guy was pretty positive about it, said there were no condition issues to speak of. And when we look at this property broadly, it's very consistent with the idea that there was a big renovation on the project and property, and also getting EPCC is pretty good going. Overall, condition-wise, nice. Okay, let's have a look at this. Now, there's quite a lot of local authority housing around here.
But most of them, those, and also you have on the right side, you can see some of the properties on the right side. I will show after on the map. I know where they are.
Now, there are
some recognize them by the shape and by style.
Yeah.
Even from the satellite view now, because I see many. So.
Yeah. Well, certainly there's quite a lot of crime in that patch. There's something going on around there. I don't know what. And it's probably something to do with around here. Well, let's have a look here. We've got 9 crimes.
With some about the park.
Oh yeah, we've got the park.
So because it doesn't have a crime in the park, it has there, so that's normal.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So they
Yeah.
ID the
Yeah.
crime in a, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right, they do. Okay, it's a little bit crimey, but it's okay, I would say.
Yeah.
And the demographic is reasonable. So if we look at this, it's a very Englishy area. It's quite a young area, relatively speaking. So young families, good proportion private rented. So we know private rented works here. Quite low AB. So it's definitely on the poorer end of the spectrum, but not too much DE. So in other words, it's just a middle to lower middle class area. And the capital growth, let's have a look at that. Quite a lot of schools nearby, by the way, which is good.
And they are
And
good for.
okay, so the first thing I would say is there's quite a lot of some churn. So 10 houses per 1,000 people. So it's not changing that much, but I would say that's because there's so much local authority around there that
There's
people are just not
a lot
selling.
of new builds. Also.
Right. Okay. Well, you'll show us that in a minute. So it's an area that's obviously on the change, but when you have this amount of social local authority housing, it tends to be quite low churn actually, because not that many people buy the houses that they rent and so on. Now, the other thing that's interesting about this area is you don't have to go far south, and then the demographics improve massively. And that's because it's all nice, modern.
Yeah, no, that's what I was talking. Like they are not the newest, but they are nice houses. So it's my area.
Yeah, so this is kind of bordering the good area. Now, with capital growth, if we look at the high level, the SK16 data, which would be the overall, let's go in there. Sorry, trying to get there. Okay, here we go. Pretty high turnover and very good capital growth over the last 3-4 years. So 40%, which is kind of consistent with a lot of the numbers we see. It's just a very strong area from that point of view. But let's just have a quick look at the growth figures here. So going further north, you've got a lot of social housing, and that's distorted things somewhat. So when I think about this area, I'm more interested in perhaps this one, because if we look here, we can see, well, it encompasses the area that we're interested in. This area has got 12%, and actually demographically, it's all pretty consistent. So let's just have a look at this. So what I'm trying to do is find like-for-like houses, because the way it works is that you have capital growth in an overall area, then you have good houses that people are chasing after, and those areas go up in value, and then you have the less good quality houses, and they don't go up in value. And it's just seeing what's sort of representative of the housing stock that we're looking at. So in our case, our specimen property is a good house, decent demographics, and therefore we should be looking at the growth numbers for those kind of better, more salubrious areas. And it kind of feels like this MSOA is probably a good one to look at for that reason. And what I can tell you is that it grew between 2003 and 8, and it held on to its gains, which was actually pretty good in the crash. So it didn't crash hard. And then it still hasn't reached well, it probably has now because we've moved on 9 months, but it's still a little bit below 2008 numbers. What does that mean? Well, it's not ludicrously hot. It's a hot market, but it's not overbought yet. And the other thing to remember is that in 2008, interest rates were 5%. Now they're 0.75%. So house affordability, mortgage affordability is actually much higher because interest costs are so much lower. Anyway, this is a strong area. And if we look at the capital growth numbers for SK16, 16% 4 years, very good. And if we look at it more from how does it do relative to everywhere else, we can see that there's only 8% of areas that are doing better than this. So this is very strong. And as we know, markets work in cycles. We're in the boom phase, and I would say there's still decent value here. If we look at the median house prices, 152, yeah, there's value around here. And what are the median? 170, 166. So in theory, there will be people migrating out here to find value. Now, Martin, over to you on location and accessibility to central Manchester.
Yeah. So first I'll go with the location. It's very close to the train station, which is always nice. Also, you have a lot of social house here. You have a lot of new builds here. I will zoom in. Here, this is all new builds. This is all new builds. All these new builds. Not the closest part, but all this, which was empty, now it's new builds. And also all these houses, all this part of the neighborhood is really nice. Here you have like social houses, which is not the best one, but it's quite far away from this. And there is a lot of part of these houses are ex-social houses. Some of them are still social house, but most of them are ex. So, which is always nice.
But the other good thing about this is it's the early type of social housing. So these properties are well built on the whole, and they're nicely done with car parking outside and so on. They're just like nice houses with nice neighborhoods.
And also, I want to add, you have schools around, which is always nice. The most not good. The market is not that close, but you have large supermarkets here. It's nice, but yeah. So when we'll do the score, I will explain. So if you want to go to Manchester, it have trains which is walkable, and I will not just leave now because it's late, and I will depart tomorrow. Let's say at 10 a.m. randomly. Maybe I should type 9 a.m. So it's 25 minutes, which is really nice. Really good access to the. So my point of view, it's the property is in really good location. And about the coal mining risk, when you zoom out, you will see one is here in the park, one is there. So basically, the coal minings are here. You can see it. Here it is. You can see one here. Some of them are here on the stadium. So yeah, they are far away from the property. If it's more than less than 20 meters, then it's worried. But now in this case, no. River and the sea, the flood risk is very low. The surface water is very low. And I will open the map just to show you. Yeah, it has some water on the road. That's normal. Every road has. So, yep, but it's not risky. So yeah, and what else? We have schools, which I'll show you already. And also when you go to the property, I mean the property data map, you can see for the social houses, those are social houses. And here you can see some of the houses that are still social house. The one usually in the red polygons, those properties are social houses. But a lot of property are ex-social houses, so which is show you that this array is improving as well. And
what are those number twos? What's that?
Yeah, the on the market.
Oh right, yeah, of course.
Yeah, so yeah, we can see like for example this property, and I can see it will load, and you can see that this property is 170 was there, and it was the market on 21 February. Yep. So that's it. But usually I don't like end of terrace houses because of the EPC is always below, lower than terrace house.
If it's EPCC, then that's an achievement.
Yeah, but I want to say that usually like I prefer terrace house than end of terrace house. Most of them because terrace house is usually built in the past when the building technology wasn't the best. So it's rare when you can find a newer built terrace house. I mean, in between last 20 and last 50 years, between this time, you don't have really a lot of terrace. Usually all the terrace houses, what I find, are built like before 900 or like between before Second World War, basically. So after
Okay.
Second World War, you have only the new builds recently, last 10 years. Okay, so yeah, for the EPCC.
Yeah, I'm very curious about this. What have they done to make it EPCC?
Basically everything. It has good wall, roof, it has loft insulation, full double glazed, like everything is good. So basically they changed also it's just they did not floor insulation. But so basically they changed the thermostat, they changed the radiators, they changed the boilers, gas control, lighting, insulation. I guess they put insulation inside because the property all at least need to have insulation. I think it have inside. Let me see. Yeah, cavity wall, fitted cavity. Yeah. So I think they spend a lot of money. Let me check. Go for something. I will check the postal prices, and I will try to find address, and this is 19. And let me see the photos. Yeah, older kitchen. So basically, they redone the full property. It's a lot of photos. So I guess they put also insulation. So, but then in 2015, the property was really cheaper compared to now. But not this. I guess it was social house, and it was sold in 2003. It was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So when you go to comparables for rent, 875, 850. No, I think it will at 800 at least. So when you go to comparables for properties, 135, but this is 2. Let me choose 3. So this is not comparable. 170 tower, 200, 160, 150, but it's not in the best condition as far as I remember. No, yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, well, actually, it's not okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it needs a lot of work. So yeah, this is 170. This is end of terraces. But this proper 190. This new build.
So do you reckon they bought it for 70 in fairly poor condition, did a big renovation on it, and now they're benefiting from huge capital gain in the area, and so on? Yeah. Okay, well, what sort of yield would you expect for this?
Not the best, because the asking price 170 and the rent will be around 800. Let's say 112 by once. Let's say 180 at least. Take it so 5. It's borderline, but the location is nice. Let's score it. Maybe like this is so 2000 September, like, and now the prices go up. So, and if I go to the date sale here, just a second, and if I go on the same like dates sold, no, this was extra 132 bedroom, 160. This sold, and if I go like I will extend 1 year, and I will extend the area, and I will choose terrace house. So this is 2 bedrooms, not comparable to 3 by 195, but this end of terrace. But this two bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 1. But this was, you see, I guess this is something. I don't know what's going on with this. This maybe have some issue because it's sell again. After
okay, so should we score?
Yeah.
Okay, doing scores now. Here we are, and here we go, Freeman Road. And for condition, it looks good, but let's be conservative and say that it's going to need £2,000 renovation cost, because there are things we don't know that we haven't seen. But the Viewer guy is pretty complimentary about it, and as we said, the owner didn't let him take videos or pictures. So we're kind of left with him calling me saying I've been there and this is what happened. Okay, location is good. Martin,
Yep.
location?
Yeah, let's score it. You don't share your screen.
Oh, I'm very sorry. Duh. I thought I did. There you go. Martin's just smiling politely saying, Nick. Okay, 3.75 condition. Location, what would you give it?
Location is really nice, 4.1, 4.2.
And area? It's all
Yeah,
right.
it's not the best.
It's the area is okay.
Yeah,
It's
globally the area is okay, but the house is in the middle between the. It's more than in the nice area, but not the best.
Yeah,
it
it's
could be
kind
better.
of. And I would go 3.7 for crime. There's something going on around there. It's a little bit on the crimey end for me. Yeah, good point. So what would you give it on crime?
Yeah, 3.7. Yeah, keep it. It's not the perfect. Yeah, it's not the lowest.
Demographics, I would say it's on the lower end of the spectrum. I'm going to give it a 3.75. Yeah. Capital growth is actually very good. I would give it a 4.1 on growth. I think it's stronger than
4. Yeah, it's more than 4, but it's not more than 4.
The thing about this area is the capital growth is really good, but the demographics are a little shaky. So when you have really good capital growth, really good solid demographics throughout the region, then you're good. But the demographics are a bit patchy here. So there's, based on the previous property cycle and how it did okay. Therefore, I think it's got headroom. I think the area will improve, and I think all the new build adds to it. So it's solid on capital growth for all these reasons. Sell time, it'll sell.
Yeah.
Rent time, it'll rent quick. Generally, all the properties that we see are like 4s or above 4. Occasionally, we see things in areas where we think, okay, whatever.
But
Yield.
we already pre-assessed them, so.
Yield?
So, yeah, it's. But basically, this property is like rate rent. So, in my point of view, I think you don't have hassle. So, because of that, the yield can be lower. So, I think it's 3.8. It's not the best, but it's still okay. On 180K, asking price is 5.3, 5.4. So.
Yeah, so it's strong on growth, little weak on yield. It gets pulled down a bit by the demographics and the crime and so on. It's just around nearly 4. It's 3.92, so it's just around our kind of threshold for good, as in inverted commas. We say that if property scores 4, then it's really good. Okay, so to wrap up, as I said earlier, I think the capital growth is quite solid around here and will probably remain solid in the impending property crash when that happens in a few years' time. I think it'll do okay. I don't think it'll be quite as robust as some others, but I think it's solid. And demographics, a bit patchy, but overall the area is lifting. It's definitely improving because of all the new build and people looking for value, and the fact that Manchester as a whole is improving. It's all right. So that's
my point of view is the same. Like, it's nice house. I think a little bit, to be honest, is the asking price a little bit on the borderline just because of the yield, but it's fully renovated, and I'm afraid that this will have a lot of competition for first buyers because it's ready to. So that's why it's with the perfect condition, not the really good condition. There will be a lot of competition with.
Yes, exactly. And this is the issue with these kind of properties. And for us, a sweet spot is where a property needs quite a lot of renovation. And it's very simple. If you're an owner occupier and you have you coming in at, say, a 90% loan to value, then you need about 16,000, 17,000 pounds in cash for a deposit plus cash for other things. So maybe you're up to £25,000 with stamp duty and legal fees and all of that. And then if you're confronted with a £10,000 renovation, well, you know what, you could put that into a bigger deposit, 10 grand into your deposit, and then in theory, subject to affordability, you can get £90,000 more mortgage, roughly speaking. So you would do that. And that's why these houses are difficult for us, because there's so much owner-occupier competition, because it's in that price point for first-time buyers, and they can even get 95% loan to value, and it's freshly renovated, which just makes it difficult. So it's not a sweet spot for us generally. And as I say, the best property is one like this, but it needs about £5,000 to £8,000 in renovation.
Yep.
Then competition's lower, you're more likely to get it. And then when you refinance, you can refinance at a higher level because the property is worth more because you did the work. Anyway, there it is. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.